Hey guys, I am really excited about this video because I have basically been accidentally collecting information for the past 5 years just so that I could share it with you guys specifically for this video. So you should hit that like and subscribe button because I'm about to dish out so much free information on you because I'm nice like that. You're welcome. Let's begin. So this video is going to be housing in Seoul, apartments, villas, officetels, what it's like to live in them, how to find them, where I plan on living next year, all of that fun stuff. The first thing that I want to talk about is going to be location. So I have actually already lived in 3 of the main spots of Seoul as well as outside of Seoul. When I first got here, I lived in Anyang. Is about an hour away from a lot of the fun stuff, maybe an hour and a half from like the more northern fun stuff. And to me, that actually never bothered me. And I actually lived out there for 3 years because this public transit is so good. And I would say that one of the benefits of living outside of Seoul is that it was cheaper rent and also there was more chance to practice Korean. But one of the downsides was there was not as much going on, especially at night or like if you want to hang out with people, do meetups and stuff. You're far away from everything. So that was kind of a bummer. Now, some of the other places you can live and that I have lived in the past are Hongdae. That was actually the first place that I moved to when I decided to leave Anyang and public teaching. I lived in basically next to Itaewon station, and that was really cool because I was studying at Sogong. I could literally walk over there and then walk over to Hongdae, you know, have a great time with my friends, and then even if the subways were closed, I could literally walk home, like a 20-minute walk home, and I was perfectly fine. And in Korea, it's safe, so you don't really have to worry about like walking home at night and things like that. Or I could take a cab, which would have been like 3,000 won. So that was really cool. It's something to consider if you like to go out at night, if you like more cheap, like affordable housing. Hongdae is a great choice. If you are younger, it's usually a lot of students and more like of an artsy vibe. So if that's your thing, I would suggest going and living there. Another option that you can choose is Kangnam, and Kangnam is like, you know, like Oppa Kangnam style Kangnam. That's where I'm currently at. The good things about Kangnam is that it's like a kind of swanky and the nightlife is like, it's more Koreans, but it is really like high-end. It's a lot of business professionals. Even the stuff around here, like there are a lot of nicer shops and more designer things. So if you're into that kind of high roller lifestyle, Kangnam is spot on for you. My personal complaint would be that it's expensive. You can live in basically a shoebox and still be paying like 800,000 won a month in Kangnam. So that's something you need to consider when you're living in this area, is that because everyone wants to live in this area, you're going to be living in a much smaller space or you're going to be paying a serious premium to be around here. The last place that I want to talk about is the Itaewon Haebangchon area. I have never actually lived there, but I am about to move there literally next weekend. So I'll probably be showing you my like new apartment tour is gonna be in Haebangchon. And that area is more the foreigner central of Seoul. So like Hongdae is the student central, Kangnam is the professional expensive central, Itaewon is the foreigner and affordable housing, like military professional center. So I'm actually really excited about moving there. I've obviously lived in all the other places, so it's kind of like a natural progression that I would want to live there as well, just to see what it's like. So far, I've seen that area as kind of a nice neighborhood feel to it. I feel like it is a really cool melting pot. It has a lot of smaller individual shops and like local shops. People will often open small stores there, and then if it works out, they can move to other places. It's a lot more affordable housing-wise, and because there's so many foreigners there, it's pet-friendly, which was a big deal for me because I have a cat, obviously, Dorian O'Gray, and I need to live in a place that allows me to have him there. Moving on from location, I want to talk about the different housing types in Korea. You basically have 4 different types. I'm going to go from least expensive to most expensive. The first one, the least expensive option, is going to be a goshwon. That's basically a shoebox. Tiny tiny apartment. You're usually sharing a bathroom with the hall. Think of it as almost like a dorm room. A lot of students will choose this option because it is insanely cheap. I've seen them for like $300 a month. They're so tiny. Usually they're clean, but personally, as a professional, I wouldn't want to live in one, but it is an option. The second one's gonna be a villa. I actually really like them. In fact, the place that I chose to go move to in Haebancheon is a villa. And they're basically a basement to maybe fourth story little building that's all residential. It has multiple rooms often. They're usually much more affordable, but they're also usually older, so sometimes you can end up with like mold problems and things like that. And there's also usually no elevator, so moving in and out can sometimes be a little more difficult. The third option is an officetel. That was what I lived in for 3 years when I was in Anyang. I lived in a couple different officetels. The thing I like about officetels is that oftentimes they will have a doorman, so that's kind of cool, but you also sometimes end up with a maintenance fee to pay the doorman, so it can be a little more expensive. Officetels are usually a mix of workplaces and residence, so it's usually a studio style because that kind of fits both, you know, possible needs that people would have. The thing about that is, like, when you invite people over, you're basically paying more money to have a studio, and it can be kind of weird because you're like, this is my living room slash bedroom slash my entire life. There goes my privacy. So like, I didn't usually invite people over to my studio officetel because I always felt like it was weird because they would like see my bed and stuff, and I'm more of a private person in that way, I guess. So I only had like a couple of small parties with like very close friends, and that is something that I would consider if I were you when it comes to what room slash studio officetel type things. Oh, and officetels are usually like skyscrapers. Like, I lived on the 14th floor on one of my places. The last one is an actual like apartments. These are easily the most expensive. Usually they're built for families, so it's hard to find a smaller apartment. And a lot of them also go on chonse, so you need a lot of money to live in them. Obviously, I've never lived in one because I am a family of 1, 2 if you count the cat. So I've never really needed them. I have been to apartments just from like Korean family friends and things like that, and they always seem pretty normal to me. The best way I could describe them would be if you were to combine like the height and elevator convenience and safety of an officetel with the space of a villa, but hike up the price because it's like the beautiful, you know, child of both. And most Koreans, I think, want to live in an apartment for that reason. All right, so once you've decided where you want to live and what kind of housing you want to live in, the next thing you need to know is a couple of terms when you're talking to your realtors and things like that. First of all, a realtor in Korean is called a Budong Time. And once you see like a Budong Time sign, then you would walk in and you need to consider 3 things. First thing is chonse. Chonse is like a super huge deposit. You're basically paying like a third of the value of the actual apartment. And if you can go with this option, you basically don't pay rent at all. You just live there. The owner of the apartment or officetel or villa or what have you will use that money for other things. He'll invest it and use it for his other projects. And then when you move out, he sends it back to you. So it's kind of nice because you're not actually losing any money essentially other than like interest. And you get to live in this place for free. The thing about it though is we're talking a large sum of money, maybe like 100,000, 250,000, even like $1 million, not $1. So if you don't have that kind of liquid cash, this is obviously not gonna be an option for you. I've clearly never done that because as an English teacher, I'm not exactly sitting on mounds of liquid cash. So yeah, I've never even really looked at that. Your next one is going to be your key money. So for the people who can't do chonse, like me and teachers and, you know, students and things like that, you're probably gonna end up doing a combination of key money and 월세. So 월세 is basically rent. It's your monthly cost for living in a place. And your key money is a deposit, but it's not like a normal deposit, which would be like maybe a month's rent. Usually it's more like 3 million to 10 million to 20 million won, which is like $3,000, $10,000, $20,000. The bigger, the nicer the place is, the higher the key money is going to be. But the good thing about the key money situation is that if you end up paying a higher key money, you can a lot of times negotiate your 월세, your monthly rent, you can negotiate it down. So if you have more money to donate to the cause, you're gonna be able to actually pay less per month. And of course, the good thing about this is that you will be getting that money back. It's not like you're just throwing it at the owner and it disappears forever. So now it's time for stories. These are my personal experiences with living in some of these places. So as far as officetels go, my first officetel that I lived in, the one problem that I had was that because it was a combination of a workplace and a office place, I never really knew like businessmen from residents. There wasn't really a community feeling. You didn't really know your neighbors because some of them didn't live there. They just worked there. And the other thing about it was like a safety issue. Like I remember in Itaewon, I had a guy follow me into my officetel who didn't work there. He didn't live there. He thought that I was for hire and followed me in. And because I lived in an area where people do often like join me in the elevator in business suits because they're working there, I didn't think anything of it until I was like trapped in the elevator with this weird man who was asking me how much I was. So that was like a super awkward thing, but I also think that that was more the area and less of the officetel. Like the other officetel that I lived at that was in Bumgay was super nice. It had like a front door guy who was really sweet, and if I ever had any questions and stuff, I would be able to ask him and kind of figure out between the languages what was going on. So I've actually really enjoyed officetels. The next place that I lived in was in Itaewon, and that was a villa. I think I was on the second floor, and it was super ghetto, guys. It was much cheaper. Like the officetel that I lived in that my school actually paid for was $700 a month. I think that's the second apartment tour that I did. If you guys want to go back and watch that video, that was $700 a month. Not including the key money. I don't even know how much that was. My villa in Itaewon was $450 a month, and the key money was only 3 million won, which was really, really cheap. But the thing about it was that it was also super, super janky. Like you could pull the linoleum off of the ground, and every time I wanted to move my furniture, I had to physically pick it up because otherwise it would like get stuck in the plastic flooring. I didn't have a sink in my bathroom, so I had to like wash my hands with like the shower thing. It was a little much. I basically chose to live there because it was really cheap. It was really close to Hongdae and Seoul because at the time I was studying, and it suited my needs. But once again, I did not entertain people there because it wasn't even like, here's my couch and my bed. It was like, here's my bed and a couple of wardrobes because that's literally all I have space for. Good luck washing your hands. Like it was a bit much, so I wouldn't want to live there again if I had the choice. As for my current situation, I am currently staying with a friend. So before you ask me to show you like my new apartment in Kangnam, this is not my apartment. There is no way I could afford this place. This is my friend's apartment who has generously allowed me to stay here as their roommate for a while I waited for like my school and my housing to kick in. So I basically had the option of finding my own place or going with what the school found for me. In the past, my Itaewon place, I actually found that on my own. So I put down the key money on my own. The lease was signed under my name. Everything was me. And this time around, I was thinking about doing the same thing, and then I realized that there's actually a catch to that. You need to have an alien registration card. And I currently don't have one because I left Korea and then I came back. So I had to go with what my school was offering me. Luckily for me, my school is amazing, and they actually said to me, hey, do you want to live in Kangnam or do you want to live in Haebonsan? And I was like, clearly I want to live in Haebonsan. So they're like, okay, cool. So last weekend we actually went, I met up with another girl from the school and the school coordinator. We went to Kangnam and we looked around at places For $750 a month, you guys, it was like a shoebox. Like when I'm talking about you can choose to live in Kangnam, the other girl wanted to live in Kangnam because it's much closer to the school. But the minute she saw how tiny that space was for how much it was, I mean, it was insanity. If you guys go back into my office tell apartment tour from Pyeongtae, it's like 3 times the size of this place and $50 cheaper per month. Like that's how tiny it was. So even she, when she saw that, was like, no. So we immediately like went over to Budong Time, and he started showing us places. He showed us a $400 a month place, which was really tiny, very reminiscent of my villa place in Itaewon. So personally, I was like, no, no, no. Then he showed us a few other places. He showed us a place for $800 a month that was absolutely gorgeous, lots of natural light, but it was still kind of small. And I was starting to get a little discouraged. I was like, oh no, like what if I end up in like another kind of wah-wah place? Like I've been here for so long that I really, really want to finally be able to like nest and make a space that is my own, where I have my own furniture and not like the school's furniture or anything, like literally just interior design for my own space. And finally he shows us this place that was absolutely incredible. It was a basement and it was $800 a month. It was 2 gigantic rooms, a super long like separate room for the kitchen, a long separate room for the dining room. I mean, I was blown away for $800 a month. It was a little more than I wanted to pay though. And he was like, well, there's a space next door for $700. Do you want to see that? And I was like, yes. So we go next door and it's like, you guys, like, it's perfect. It's like, mwah, it's so perfect. The thing about Budong is I've noticed that a lot of the villas, because they're older, they're not that clean. And this place was literally in the middle of being renovated. So I'm gonna put some pictures for you guys to see what it currently looks like. It's not gonna look like that when I move in, obviously. But I saw the potential and I was like, oh my God, this place is going to be clean. It has actual windows. Another thing I've noticed with older housing, especially villas, is that instead of having like clear glass windows, they have this kind of fogged out windows. So in the winter, you feel like you're living in a cave. And I do not like that. The Louisianian in me is not interested in living in a cave anymore. Been there, done that in Itaewon. Don't want to do it again. So I saw this place and was like, yes, 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 yes. And of course, the girl that I was looking at houses with, one of my coworkers, or soon to be coworkers, saw the 800 one and she was like, yes, yes, yes. So we're actually gonna be neighbors now. And the best part, of course, is that not only do I have 2 rooms and a bathroom, but that means I can also entertain without showing people my bedroom. So I am very excited. I even got a Roomba secondhand, but still, I have a Roomba. I'm already starting to like prepare so that I can like nest and make this place my own. And they are totally okay with my cat, which was another thing where people in Kangnam were like, a lot of the Budong Sons were not excited about me having a cat. Budong Time, because there's so many foreigners, a lot of them have dogs, a lot of them have cats. So like the owners didn't even blink when he was like, yeah, she's got a cat. They were like, yeah, okay, that's fine. We're so used to it at this point, we just don't care. So I am 100% very excited about living in this new place. I will definitely do a room tour as soon as I can. If you guys have any questions for me, please go ahead and put it in the comments below. You know I love to hear your feedback and I read all of them when I can. I love your faces. I will see you next time and I hope that you got something useful out of this video. If you did, like, subscribe. See you later.